that, no.
What do you do now? What about your business interests in Zimbabwe? You still have farms? You still have property? You're still a good friend of Robert Mugabe?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah? Still stand by what you said a couple of years ago? He's 100% decent and 100% incorruptible.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. And again, it is the media and the roadie-fed media that is putting out all this rubbish about what he and
human rights abuses, massacre, torture. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. How do you know?
It's absolute rubbish.
How do you know?
Well, because I happen to be on the ground in Zimbabwe and I know what is happening there. This is all media
the people who've
inspired.
come forward, who've been
just a minute,
tortured,
a lot of what are in fact simple, ordinary crimes are now being blamed on the party, being blamed on politicians. Normal crimes. And Zimbabwe is basically a crime-free country compared with the region in general.
Mr. Van Hoogstraten, you're setting yourself against the bulk of world opinion that knows for a fact that this is a lawless regime that has tortured and intimidated its opponents left, right and centre and starved those, in fact, who don't support the ruling ZANU-PF party.
This is total rubbish. It's a total media blackwash.
You're alone in saying that.
I don't believe I'm alone.
You're a lone voice, apart from the Zimbabwean government, which is not exactly impartial.
I happen to be one of the few people that know what the position is in Zimbabwe. So, and I'm not known for saying things that are not true. You've got a whole history of me, and if anything, I'm known for saying what the truth is. And if I say, as I've said, that Robert Mugabe is incorruptible, then that is a fact. You can stand on it, and I should know. And for the most part, that relates to most of his senior ministers. Certainly the late Vice President, who was a long-standing friend of mine, who's Simon Muzenda.
And the fact that he can't travel to Europe, can't travel to America, his bank accounts are frozen, it's just hype.
This is the West, isn't it? This is the West, and this all goes back to the West failing to honour the Lancaster House Agreements. And the Lancaster House Agreements included the fact that a large acreages of land were supposed to be acquired for the landless peasants in Zimbabwe, funded by the British and American governments. That money has never been made available.
So you dismiss all the reports about his wrongdoing.
How many years was the Mugabe government going to put up with this continuing land monopoly down there?
Okay.
And let me tell you on the ground exactly what is happening in many cases down there. You have farmers there. They've got, for instance, 2,000 acres. Let's take 2,000 acres of land. They are using 300 acres of it. And the 1,700 acres is for exercising their dogs. That is what happens. And if a black man wants to buy a piece of land, wants to buy an adjoining farm, they all used to get together, club together, and stop him from buying it by buying it themselves.
You don't mind that your support for Robert Mugabe would be seen as absolute nonsense by the vast majority of people?
I'm not the least bit concerned. If the rest of the world wants to think that what I'm saying is nonsense, good luck to them. But the proof of the pudding's in the eating. And consistently over the years, I have been successful in what I've done, and I've also been accurate in what I've done. And to go back onto my recent conviction, within a matter of days of my, and I call it wanky conviction, W-A-N-K-I-E, which happens to be the name of the major coal mining area in Zimbabwe, my wanky conviction, within days, I knew it couldn't be sustained, and I had a high court, sorry, not a high court, I had a circuit judge actually write into me and say, set out chapter and verse, you've been wrongly convicted, boom, 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 and gave me all the law on it, as did a number of other lawyers.
Okay.
So within days of that, I then wrote to the judge, the trial judge, and said, oi, you up. I wrote to the prosecution counsel and set it all out for them. Why did it take 18 months for somebody to come along, somebody of the status of Sir Stephen Mitchell, to say exactly what I'd said 18 months earlier? Why did it take 18 months to sort this mess out?
Mr. Van Hoogstraten, you trained as a...
That is corruption. So don't talk about Zimbabwe and what goes on down there, because I'd sooner, if I'm going to be tried under Zimbabwe justice or British justice, I'll have Zimbabwe justice.
Okay. You trained as a Samaritan in prison?
During my time in Belmarsh, yes.
You're a good listener?
Yes.
Richest Samaritan in Britain, you think?
Probably.
Listed once as the 159th richest man. About 500 million, something like that? Is that what you're worth?
Well, it depends whether you're talking about personally many years ago when they froze tens of millions of assets, etc. So, well, since then, I've...
You're a little cagey about revealing what it
I've
is
obviously
you've got.
set things into trusts and handed
So give us a rough
property
figure.
and assets to children and...
Yeah, what would you raise your hand to?
Oh, I'm not making any admissions about wealth.
More than 100?
No, yeah, well, obviously.
Less than 500?
I'm not going into it.
All right, Nicholas van Hoogstraten, good to have you on the programme. Thanks very much.
Okay.